Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on how to reduce risk, save time, and stay on budget with OpenSpace. My name is Lisa Marshall. I am the Director of Sales Enablement here at OpenSpace, and I am your moderator for today. We're really excited about what we have to show you. Throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, type them into the Q&A or the chat, and we'll make note of them. We'll be sure to get to as many questions as possible at the end of today's presentation. Before we begin, I'd like to share a raffle that we've created for anyone who would like to participate, including those of you who are live today or anyone who is watching the recording before our deadline. You can win a Theragun Mini, which is a percussion massager that is super effective at relieving any project-related stress you may have. To enter, click the link in the chat or visit the link listed here. You just need to register as a new or existing member of the OpenSpace community and write your answer to the question on this slide. You must enter by Friday, June 24th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. The winner will be announced in the community on Monday, June 27th. And now I'd like to introduce Richard Acton-Mayer, our Senior Product Manager.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I'm excited that one of you might get a Theragun Mini. I have one myself. I use it to relieve a lot of my product management stress and also snowboarding and running and biking stress. So definitely look out for that in our community. So I'm the Director of Product for our core capture product, OpenSpace. I've been at OpenSpace for about a year. So I own our core product that includes our camera integrations, our 3D scan feature, lots of the other core functionality in OpenSpace. And we have a couple of great speakers with us here today, Siggy and Jennifer from Columbia Construction. Siggy has over 20 years of experience in the construction industry, and she's the Vice President of Improvement and Innovation at Columbia. And Jennifer has been at Columbia for about a couple of years, I think, and the Director of Virtual Planning and Construction. They are two of our champion and power users and have really brought OpenSpace to bear on their operations and projects in a way that is really helping them save time and save money. And we'd love to have them with us today to talk about how that's gone. So I will pass it over to them to introduce themselves and Columbia.
Hi, my name is Siggy Pfendler. Thank you for the introduction, Richard. I am Columbia's Vice President of Improvement and Innovation. I support process improvement and technology adoption across the company. I've been with Columbia for 15 years and in the construction industry for over 20, with previous roles in project management and VDC. A little bit about Columbia. We're a family-owned construction management company that is nearly 100 years old, but we have about 200 employees currently and do about $400 million worth of work annually in the Boston area. We have a high percentage of repeat clients, as client focus is one of our guiding principles. And we build across a wide variety of markets, including healthcare, life science, academic, energy, corporate, and hospitality. I'm going to turn it over to Jen to introduce herself and provide some OpenSpace metrics for Columbia.
Hello, I am Jen Wools, and I am the Director of Virtual Planning and Construction at Columbia. I've been at Columbia for about 3 years and in the industry for about 10. So our group at Columbia runs the coordination efforts for our new buildings, and we also head the existing condition scans, the OpenSpace, the site captures, and also our drone services at Columbia. So a little bit about Columbia and OpenSpace. Our first capture using OpenSpace was back in February of 2020. So we've been using OpenSpace for just about 2.5 years. At any given point, we have between 20 to 30 active projects using OpenSpace with a wide variety of frequencies for the captures. Our estimating group is actually one of the lead focuses of OpenSpace. So it kind of changes the frequency of how many captures we take per month, but our average is about 25 captures per month.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you, Siggy and Jennifer, for being here with us today. And of course, thank you to everyone else out there attending today. We're going to try to make this as useful and productive as possible. So we're really trying to show just kind of a window into what OpenSpace Capture can do to help you save time and save money on your projects. Our content is going to be geared towards some of our perhaps existing reality capture users, and also those of you who may not have adopted a reality capture tool yet on your projects. And so we'll do a quick overview of the OpenSpace Capture product and what it is and why our customers love it. And then we'll dive into a couple of key features that our customers use to leverage the value of OpenSpace and achieve that ultimate goal of saving time and saving money. So first, an overview of our OpenSpace Capture product. This is a bit of an oversimplified slide, but it really is this simple. What it consists of is connecting a 360-degree camera to our mobile app, putting that camera on your hard hat, walking the construction site like you might normally do. And then within a few hours, the capture will be processed and will be available on our OpenSpace app to navigate on that floor plan, much like it would be a Google Street View interface. So you can click around that floor plan and find exactly which captures you might be looking for to track progress of things on site and just keep tabs on how things are going. And there are kind of two key aspects that make OpenSpace valuable and powerful for our users. The first, and the thing that I was really struck by when I joined OpenSpace a little over a year ago, is that from the very beginning, the focus for OpenSpace has been to make it the easiest to use reality capture tool out there. It's not only easy to jump around quickly and see what you might be looking for in the capture, it's also incredibly easy to take captures. It really is just as simple as putting that camera on your hard hat and walking the site like you normally would. And a reality capture app is only going to be as good as it is frequently used. And if you're not getting captures, you're not going to get any of the value out of that app that it can potentially promise or offer. And so our focus has always been and continues to be making sure that it's the easiest possible reality capture app to use, to make sure that those captures happen frequently and that field teams across the world, whether they be using iOS devices or Android devices or tech savvy or not tech savvy, can use this easily to get those captures. And then once you have those captures, our turnaround times tend to be very fast because we leverage machine learning to make sure that we can process those quickly. And then OpenSpace can be used across the life cycle of your project. So everything from buying out your subs at the beginning of the project correctly, looking at one consistent set of data about what the site conditions are, to coordinating across owner, architect, and others in OAC meetings, and even to, at the end of the project, making sure that your subs are being paid correctly based on exactly the amount of work that's been done. OpenSpace can be leveraged, those captures can be leveraged to really provide value across the life cycle of the project. And so today we'll get into a little bit of the details of how our customers do that and how Columbia does that. So next up, we'll dive into split view, but I'll pause here and pass it over to the Columbia team to share a little bit about what their experience was like getting OpenSpace set up on their projects.
Thanks, Richard. So I actually step back. This is a story about how we figured out that OpenSpace was the easiest to use. So as I mentioned before, we are a regional contractor in the Boston area. So it was kind of a big deal in 2017 when a longtime client of ours asked a couple of our team members to go see a functioning plant in China to prepare for a project we were going to build for them in the Boston area. I knew the PX was there in China, so I was pretty surprised one morning to see his name pop up on my phone. He was calling regarding 360 camera technology. The builder in China had used it, so the execs back in Germany could keep tabs on the project during construction. And the owner had asked our PX, wanted to know if we could do that on our upcoming project. And what did I say? I said, of course we can do that, Fred. I'd been talking to someone at HoloBuilder, right? Not OpenSpace didn't exist yet. I'd been talking to somebody at HoloBuilder, so I knew the technology was available. So fantastic, done, signed up, set the team up with a camera and software in November, right? Easy. Checked in with them for a few weeks, figured they were on their way. Sometime in April, I checked back in with a project and they'd stopped collecting photos in February. They'd done it for a few months and then stopped. I was so unhappy with them, but their feedback was that it just took too long and nobody used it anyway, so it was a waste of time. Okay, so this is a problem. So clearly not going to do that again. In early 2020, one of our APMs reached out to me to ask about OpenSpace, right? Seems sort of similar to that previous 360 technology, but the fact that you could collect the data on your regular field walk, right? That was intriguing. So I helped him get set up with a camera, the software, and he was off and running. With him, we had our first successful use of OpenSpace. And from there, it was word of mouth through the company. One PMs from that project used it on his next project. The PX from that one used it on his next, and that sort of thing. So clearly, it was so much easier to use because the teams actually used it. Setup and collection is so easy as long as you have somebody on the job who's willing to wear the camera on their hard hat. It's my one caveat. Thanks, Richard. Go ahead.
Thank you, Siggy. And yes, of course, I don't know if anyone noticed my my headshot that I use for this webinar and all the public stuff, but I have a hard hat and the camera on my headshot, just so that if our customers have to walk around with those cameras on their heads all the time, I may as well have to have the same look in my my headshot. But yes, we love to hear stories like that, and of course, you know, we want to, as I said, we want to make sure that we're the easiest reality capture app to use, so that those captures happen and that value can kind of permeate throughout your operation as it gets used. And so that's a great segue into the first feature that we'll dive into, which is split view. And split view is really one of the simplest features of OpenSpace. It gives you the ability to look at two different captures side by side from different dates. So you can confirm the progress of work that's been done between one date and the next. And you can also, as we like to say, it's kind of a time machine. You can see behind walls without having to rip out drywall. You can go back in time and see what was behind that drywall, or even behind, you know, walls or equipment that was installed or windows or floors. And so it really gives you that kind of job site time machine feeling that that we like to refer to for our product. And it's as simple as what we've already talked about. You just take captures, and if you have more than one capture, then split view is something that you can use on your project. And so I will jump over to a quick demo of the split view feature, just to really give you a sense of exactly how it works. So here we have a capture of a room that's clearly been partially built. All you have to do to use split view is click on that split view button. You'll now see two captures from that same date, April 27th, and then just simply use the date picker to go back in time. And as we like to say, see through walls. So you can see the installation was installed in this wall. You can see the framing. And then you can click this lock button to lock that view in place as you scroll around. So you can examine the entire room, everything that 360-degree camera captured, to see the difference between what this site looked like on March 22nd and what this site looked like on April 27th. And so our customers love this feature for a lot of reasons, but the two key ways that they save time and save money with our split view feature is they avoid time doing destructive investigations with that sort of time machine, see behind walls feature. You can avoid having to rip out drywall to make sure that the backing was installed or other things were in place, or identify where piping or electrical might be. You can also save money by knowing exactly what work was done between one date and the next, knowing that you're getting charged exactly what you should be for the labor to do that work, and there's no debate about exactly what work was done when. And so here I'll pass it back to the Columbia team, and we'd love to hear a little bit about how you use split view in your operations.
Yeah, so our field staff is really the crew of Columbia who loves this feature, right? The ability to see through walls, as Richard keeps on mentioning, it's so beneficial for them. We've had, multiple examples of, I've gone on to a field site and I've had multiple times where a superintendent comes over to me and gets really excited because, a drywaller covered up an electrical outlet. But through OpenSpace, they could stand in the spot and they could say exactly where the outlet was. So it's much less destructive for them in the long run to be able to uncover that outlet a lot quicker. The other huge thing is that you don't need somebody to individually walk through your site and take pictures and then label them and then organize them, right? Instead of going through, all of your site documentation to find that one perfect image of that water pipe, you can just go onto OpenSpace, hit the split view, and be able to be brought to that location exactly without all of that organizational problems of looking through photos. Another example that we've had is that the existing storm cleanouts were covered up. And during a walkthrough with an inspector, he said, nope, they have to be uncovered with an outlet. And so going through the split view, we were able to actually identify where exactly on that storm pipe that existing cleanout was. So again, it was much less destructive than being able to, open up the whole wall after it was built. It's kind of the key things that I've learned through the OpenSpace feature, the split view, is to make sure that you capture frequently. You never know when you're walking through and there could be that perfect shot, but a crane is blocking it. So make sure that you are capturing the space and the site frequently, and make sure that you're capturing from the very beginning. There's been a lot of times that we've had to see through a concrete slab and we can't afterwards. So being able to go to the split view and find out exactly where that conduit was buried or where exactly that sanitary pipe was buried is huge. So again, just, capture frequently and capture from the very beginning.
That's great. Thank you, Jennifer. And yeah, I think that goes to the ease of capturing, in that, a lot of the value that our customers get out of this is kind of insurance for the future, sort of insurance against the unknown unknowns about what might come up down the road. And so if you just did a capture every time you knew you needed one, you might not be capturing that much. You might miss a lot of the opportunities to save time and money through OpenSpace. And so that regularity of capture, making sure that captures are being done maybe every Friday or at least once a week, is a great way to make sure that you have those kinds of data points and can go back in time and get exactly the kind of information you're looking for to avoid some of those trickier investigations and work that you may ultimately not have budgeted for. Great. So our next feature is our BIM compare feature. So this one is very similar to split view. Instead of having a second capture on the split screen, you're seeing the BIM model. And so this is great for being able to compare exactly what you're looking at on site to what the design intent was. So you can tell whether there may be errors in what's been built, or you can tell what additional items need to be installed or built. And so it's a really just quick and easy way to compare what's on site to what the design intent is, and make sure that you're continuing on that path of building exactly what was intended. It's incredibly easy to use this feature as well. All you have to do is upload the BIM model to us. We automatically align that model in usually less than 12 or 24 hours. And then all you have to do is click the BIM compare button anywhere you are on site viewing a capture to load that BIM model. And so I'll show you a quick demo of that. So here we are viewing a capture. I'll click this BIM button on the right here. And now as the BIM model loads, you can see that just like in split view, we can browse around this room, and the BIM model changes to the right, so we can see what might be not yet installed here. We can also see where the flooring is, and any other details that the BIM model might have for us. And then one of the things that I really love about the BIM model integration as well is that it makes it super easy to navigate the BIM. I always, when I find myself trying to navigate in the Forge viewer itself, it always seems a little tricky. But with OpenSpace, all you have to do is click somewhere where there might be a capture, and you're automatically teleported to exactly that point in the capture itself, and also exactly that point in the BIM model. So it's a super easy way to just jump around your project and find exactly what you might need to find, and compare that exactly to your BIM model. So our customers love this for a variety of reasons. Of course, saving time. It's super easy to pull up that BIM model and compare design intent to what's on site. And so it's a lot faster to identify what issues might exist or what additional installations might be required. And it's also super easy to look at the BIM model next to things on site to resolve issues like clash coordination issues or RFIs that may depend on certain things that are on site, and comparing what was intended to what's on site and finding something in the middle. And so this BIM compare feature is something that a lot of our customers make heavy use of. In particular, we've been investing a lot in speeding up the process by which we update and align new BIM models. So we're making it very easy to update that BIM model every day. Every time there are new adjustments to the model, it's very quick to get that into OpenSpace and out to your field teams, so that they can very easily compare design intent from a BIM model that might have been updated yesterday to exactly what's on site. And with that, I will pass it to the Columbia team to talk about using BIM compare.
So our field staff loves this feature because they can be standing in the space with their subcontractor foreman partner, and they can have the split view, the BIM. They can have the BIM compare on their screen, and they can check to figure out what's already installed and what's still coming. It really helps being able to plan within the space. You know, when is duct going to install? When is piping going to install? To make sure that we're not putting up something before we should. It also actually helps a lot with quality control too. So there was one example where I was walking through one of our projects, and an eye wash just looked slightly off, right? There were so many design changes, and it just looked like it was slightly too far to the left. So after I did my walkthrough, I looked and I used the BIM compare to look to see that, you know, the eye wash was installed in the wrong location, but it was just at the framing of the wall. So we were able to, you know, talk to the superintendent, say it needs to slide over, and within a day that eye wash was framed in the right location. So instead of waiting until, you know, other utilities, drywall, the equipment was starting to be in place, we could actually identify it very early in the construction process, and we could save time and save money just being able to, you know, switch over the framing early on in the process. The BIM compare really brings the model to people who might not be familiar or might not have access into Navisworks. So it's really great to be able to, you know, go through the whole coordination effort and really know that people are going to look at the model and people are going to install to the model. And OpenSpace is really key to be able to bring the model out into the field.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. And yeah, there's always something feels a little bit magical about pulling it up when we're in the field and being able to compare a recent capture to exactly what you're seeing on site to the BIM model and kind of have all of those data points in front of you all at the same time. Great, so next up is our 3D scan feature. So this feature is near and dear to my heart. It was kind of one of the first sort of fun and very high-tech features that I took over when I started at OpenSpace. And so 3D scan is an iOS powered, so it has to be an iOS Pro device that has a LiDAR sensor, but it's an iOS powered way to capture a point cloud anywhere on your job site with the OpenSpace mobile app. So it's super easy to capture that point cloud, upload it to us. Within a few hours, we process the cloud and are then able to show it in OpenSpace so that you can take measurements. You can screenshot things and send them to people that might need those measurements. You can also export the point cloud itself for import into any other system that you might want to use it for. And so, as I said, it's super simple. You just open the OpenSpace app, tap the 3D scan capture option, start scanning anything. You can actually do quite large spaces. It's quite easy to use as well. You don't need to stay in one place. You can walk around as you're scanning. And then within a few hours, that scan is available for anyone on your site to view in OpenSpace. And so for a quick demo, I will show you how taking those measurements work. So here we have a scan of a doorway. So let's say we needed to measure this doorway to make sure we could fit some sort of equipment or material that needs to be installed through it. So you simply click this measure icon here on the right, pick the point that you'd like to choose. We'll choose this corner right here. Measure the width of this doorway. It looks like it's exactly 3 feet. And it looks like it's pretty much exactly 7 feet tall. And we'll see if we get the same ones on the other sides. Looks like we're pretty close. So with this, you can now take this, either screenshot this, send it to someone else. It gives you the ability to have a very objective measurement so that it's easy to show anyone else exactly where you measured, which points you measured, where you measured from and to, so that they know exactly what this clearance might be if they need to get equipment through this doorway. And so our customers like 3D scan because, for one, it saves them a ton of time. What a lot of our customers will do is scan a room that's kind of a tricky space, have that scan on OpenSpace so that if anyone needs to take measurements, whether it might be someone who's going to bring equipment through or someone who's confirming that it was built correctly, all of that can now be done in OpenSpace, and you can avoid that site visit. There are a lot of details in those measurements that you can get to respond to RFIs or other sorts of questions or decisions that need to be made around coordinating future work that those scans are now capable of helping you solve without having to go on site. And then, of course, this is done with an iOS device, many of which we already have, and therefore you can avoid those costly laser scanners to get point clouds, prepare for future work, investigate errors, do lots of things with those 3D scans from the comfort of your desk and without having to go on site. So our customers love this feature because it gives them a ton of power just from their laptop itself without having to go on site. And so I would love to hear from the Columbia team again, how you make use of 3D scans in your operations.
Yeah, so as somebody who does scanning on site, what really impressed me the most is the speed, right? So instead of going through the whole process of scanning a whole space, I could just simply take my iPad tablet and then go to site, and then you stand in one location and you kind of move the tablet up and down, almost like you're painting. It's best to kind of start in one corner or start from, a piece of structure and then kind of start capturing that way. But once it's uploaded, it is available really quickly through OpenSpace, which that processing time is really impressive. I actually just used it yesterday to collect data where we're renovating a room in a hospital, and they're still in the demo and abatement process, but I wanted to get the coordinator started a little bit early. So I was on site and I was able to use the 3D scan to get some of that bottom of existing ductwork and bottom of existing structure, so that at least we had a benchmark to start the coordination from. We will go back and we will do a full scan, but at least now with this 3D scan, I can just distribute that data and those dimensions to the coordinator quickly so that he can start going through and modeling some ductwork before the demo even happens. Another case study is to confirm the placement of a concrete pad. So before equipment comes on site, we can use this 3D scan feature to make sure that the concrete pad the dimension is right and it's off the wall far enough so that when a piece of equipment comes, the installation will go off seamlessly. And another great thing is to check code dimensions for code compliancy too. So if there's a electrical panel, we can do this really quickly to make sure that the panel is installed in the correct location and it will meet all the code.
That's great. Thank you, Jennifer. Those are all some great examples. And at the risk of geeking out a little bit here, one of the things I love about 3D Scan is that for some of our customers, it replaces something as simple as your tape measure. I mean, literally, we'll have customers go on site, forget their tape measure, and if they need to measure the distance between, let's say, one post and another, they can just take a 3D scan walking along the floor, take it back to the office, and then take the measurement from their computer. But then at the same time, it's also something that's leveraging cutting edge technology, not just the sensor in the iPhone, but also the algorithms that we're using to process that data and generate the point clouds and meshes that you're able to download from our app. So there's just something very cool about being capable of replacing such a simple tool like a tape measure, but also incredibly sophisticated and advanced technology that goes into making this feature work. Great, so now the last feature that we'll talk about today is field notes. So field notes are just a really simple way to log any site conditions you might see, whether you're looking at that as you're on site or if you're looking at that in one of your captures. Immediately take that image, either take a picture with your phone or take a sort of a screenshot of the panel that you might be looking at in a capture, and then turn that into actionable, trackable work that can be tracked either in OpenSpace itself or pushed to one of your project management tools like Procore, PlanGrid, or Autodesk Construction Cloud to make sure that whatever work might need to get done gets done from that observation. And so with field notes, you're able to do things like tag it with a priority or a category, assign it to people, set a due date, add comments, mark up the image itself to explain exactly what needs to be done. And that helps our customers, not just have that capture that's a sort of historical log of what's been done on site, but also create actionable items that can be tracked and get more work done through all that capture content. And so it's as simple as either opening up OpenSpace on your laptop or opening up the app on your phone. And if you're on site, taking a picture, saving that field note, assigning it to a team member, and then tracking it through the life cycle of that to-do. And so for a quick example, here's a field note with some ductwork that needs to be done. It's got a priority. It has 2 people assigned to it. It has some tags and a due date. And so from here, you could push it to BIM 360, PlanGrid, Procore, or just simply track it in OpenSpace itself. And so field notes are something that our customers love. Really, OpenSpace didn't set out to build a sort of project management or sort of action item tracking tool, but we found that so many of our customers were identifying things that needed to be tracked and completed once our capture product was built, that we knew it would be incredibly valuable to our users to be able to create those action items directly from OpenSpace and then push them into the systems that they use to track those if they wish. And so it saves our customers time because it's super easy to turn those observations into actionable, trackable to-dos in whatever system they use in just a few clicks. And it saves money because a lot of those to-dos, if you just had that one picture, you know, there are 1,000 times in a project that someone wishes if they could just see, you know, 2 feet in the other direction, maybe they could tell what the one next to it looks like. And with OpenSpace, not only do you have that one image and the description that was written with it, you also have all the context of that image from whatever capture may have been done around the same time to all the historical captures to tell when did that issue first arise, what do other things look like on, you know, one floor above or one floor below. So you get the full scope of those to-dos in a way that you just wouldn't have as a single image that you might get if you're simply using, you know, just Procore, FieldWire, or PlanGrid. And so that helps our teams, our customers resolve issues quickly and make the right decisions quickly, you know, to avoid rework and to avoid additional work that might be out of scope of the initial project. And so I'd love to hear again from the Columbia team how you make use of field notes.
Yeah, so to mimic what Richard was saying, the layout is really so easy to understand the issue. Having in that image and then tying it onto the floor plan, it just makes it so easy to navigate and know exactly where the issue is. It also speeds up, you know, design and owners' input because they already know where they need to go. They already have the image already tied into one kind of sheet. We actually use field notes for 2 different reasons too. We use them for internal communication with the coordination model. So it's happened a couple times, pretty frequently actually, where one of the superintendents could be walking through the site and notice a component was installed incorrectly, and she'll actually tag me in OpenSpace and assign a note to me so that, you know, she kind of labels it as a coordination issue, and it, you know, it lets me know that I need to, you know, look at this, compare it with the BIM model, make sure, you know, what was installed incorrectly. Is there going to be more ramifications or more issues with this incorrect installation, or can we, you know, do a minor shift and then it's okay and we can move on? Another way also is through existing conditions. So we do a lot of work in hospitals, and there's a lot of existing utilities that we actually have to work around. So when I'm doing a walk, or even when somebody with my engineering staff does a walk, they can make a note using field notes, and it tags me and it reminds me that we need to coordinate around this duct. So they will put the dimension of the duct on there. They'll put the, you know, bottom elevation too, so that as we're then coordinating, you know, say we're coordinating a couple months after that initial walkthrough, right, as long as I'm tagged on it, I know and I remember to go back to that note, and I know to coordinate around that existing utility that that's going to remain.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that's one of the things that we've learned a ton from our customers about since launching this feature is how many different use cases field notes apply to, and a lot of our customers will also, you know, if there's a particular control panel or something of a lot of detail that needs to be captured, it's very easy to just take a field note while you're doing a capture. And so if you're just walking rooms and then you see something that has quite a bit of detail on it, it's very easy to walk up and right in the middle of that capture without having to do anything. You can tap the field note button in our app, take a picture of whatever it might be, and then that field note gets automatically pinned to the right location based on the capture you're doing. And so it's a great way to just document stuff that maybe it's not even an action item, maybe it's just something that you need a little bit of detail on that you know teams might want to reference in the future. And so we are continuing to invest a lot in the flexibility of our field notes and the workflows that they can go through from you know, creation to resolution. And also just the ways that you can access those field notes through the course of a project, particularly those that might just be kind of standing information like a you know, an operation manual that you might attach to the field note for a piece of equipment that's been installed, or just simply a detailed picture of a control panel. Great, so I know we've been getting a ton of questions in the chat, and I think we're getting close to the time where we can move into that. But I will pass it over to Lisa to pick up from there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Siggy, Jen, and Richard. And with that, we'd like to transition to the Q&A portion of today's webinar. If you haven't put your questions in the chat, please do so now, and we'll start by answering some that came in during the presentation. We'd like to start with the Columbia team. How does OpenSpace help with AOC and weekly coordination meetings?
So really, there's not many coordination meetings that I don't reference OpenSpace. It's happening much more frequently that we are still kind of coordinating through while ductwork might be installing, we might be fine-toothing coordinating through, some sync locations or stuff like that. So using OpenSpace during our coordination meetings, we're able to look to see what's already installed and what we cannot move through the coordination process. It's also brought up during our OACs, so owners really love it. They love being able to, hop on site. They love being able to see what's going on and the progress on site. So OpenSpace is really used in both meetings pretty frequently.
Fantastic. And again, for the Columbia team, does OpenSpace help team members use BIM who didn't use it before?
Absolutely, right? It takes away the Navisworks requirement, right? So you no longer have to download a specific program and get used to being able to navigate through that program. So with OpenSpace, it really does bring the model out to a larger group of people than previously.
Yeah, thank you. And another for Columbia, how does OpenSpace help you communicate with subcontractors?
So it helps us to communicate through the installation order. So our superintendents can stand there and kind of work through that order with them. But we also share OpenSpace with our subcontractors too. So it actually helps out through the as-builting process, right? So if we're going through and it's now turnover time and we're getting those as-builts from our subcontractors, they can reference back to see to make sure that things were installed as they were first anticipating. So it helps out with that process as well.
Fantastic. And Columbia, you guys are getting peppered here, but for the Columbia team, Mitch Buck is asking, what is the size of your estimating team?
I'll take that one. It's easy. We have 20 people in our estimating department.
Great. All right. Benjamin Hayes is asking, can OpenSpace figure out where on the site you are? How are the control points set? And what accuracy does it have if you want to capture open cut for in-ground piping?
Great question. So a lot of our features in the app work by placing yourself in a precise location on a floor map so that we know exactly where you are. And so then we can pull up captures from that position historically, and then also the BIM model. And so we're continuing to invest in a lot of features that make that an easier process on site. For example, we would like to eventually release a BIM X-ray feature where you'd be able to walk around on site and compare the BIM to what you're actually seeing. But for now, it requires you to place yourself in a specific location on the floor plan, or just press the play button on a capture, and then they'll sort of give you a virtual walkthrough. And then for 3D scan, our current accuracy is plus or minus 1 inch. And that is actually a very common use case that our customers use to take measurements for in-ground piping or other things that might be a little bit tricky to physically get into. So yes, it is definitely something that it has been viable for, at least for some of our other customers.
Great. And Adam Gorlewski is asking, when will we be able to measure so we know where things are at? I'm
not, if I understand the question correctly, when we'll be able to measure so we can. So as far as taking measurements, if we're talking about feature releases here, the 3D scan feature is now live and measurements are supported in that. So that's a feature that's currently available in the app. And unfortunately, at this point, it does require a Pro iOS device. We'd like to support new devices in the future, but currently we only support iOS, and Android is a little bit trickier to develop on, in part because there are many more devices, and the way that those LiDAR sensors work differs from device to device.
Yeah, thank you. David Riley is asking, if you move forward in split view, is there a way to bring the other picture to the same frame without closing and reopening the split view?
There is. So let's see if I can demo that for you. So not blocked here. I suppose anytime you try a live demo, there's always a chance it's going to go wrong. But yeah, so as you're browsing in the split view, if you have that lock icon turned on, it will follow you around, and so that you can keep tabs on exactly what things look like on that previous date. One thing, of course, it does depend on is consistent capture paths, so that there is a capture point at the same place on each capture. But as long as you're doing that, it will follow you around in the walkthrough.
Yeah, great. Pablo Avellaneda is asking, I understand that BIM compare is just a visual comparison. Does OpenSpace show progress quantities?
So for our progress tracking product called ClearSight, we will measure quantity of progress and show you, quantity of things installed as they're being installed. And we are working on support in our BIM compare feature to also show that progress on the BIM model. And so that is something that we are currently kind of, requires purchase of our ClearSight product and is currently under active development in terms of improving those features. So yes, it is something we can support, and it does require the ClearSight product.
Fantastic. Brian Ramonka is asking, how accurate are the 3D scan measurements? Can these be used for a whole building, internal and external?
Yeah, so great question. So as I said before, it's plus or minus 1 inch in terms of accuracy. It does depend somewhat on the quality of the scan itself. I've certainly gotten it much closer than plus or minus 1 inch, but that's sort of our kind of, the sort of basic expectation. And then we currently support about 8 feet of range between yourself and the surface that you're capturing. And so for very large spaces, or for, scanning the facade of a building from outside, that range may not quite be enough. And of course, that's a limitation of the LiDAR sensors on the camera. We are very, very closely watching Apple's continued investment and development on both the hardware for their LiDAR scan, and then also the what's called ARKit, and what they recently announced Room Plan, which are the software APIs to make use of that data. And so we intend to use the full capability of the hardware and software that Apple will offer on their devices. And if they can extend that range and accuracy, then certainly we will do that for our 3D scan product as well.
Thank you. From Trevor Holton, is the hard hat cam capable of capturing the 3D scan, or is this function specific to iPad or iPhone?
So it is unfortunately specific to iPad or iPhone and Pro devices. We do have some R&D efforts around generating point clouds from the 360 camera images. Unfortunately, none of that is currently live in our product at this point, but it is something that we would like to be able to support in the future. And we do have some continued kind of R&D in that area. But of course, as you can imagine, the photogrammetry quality of those point clouds is something that we're working to improve and make more more viable for the use cases that our customers would like to use that kind of data for. And that's part of why we built the 3D scan feature with the iOS devices, because we knew we could get very high quality or very high accuracy relative to a photogrammetry driven point cloud from 360 cameras.
Great. And then continuing with 3D scan from Brian Ramadka, how close together are the data points? Can this be altered for greater or lesser accuracy?
Yes, so that's a great question, and gets a little bit into the technical details, but the closer you are to the surface that you're scanning, the more points we will have for that surface. And our measurements are actually taken from a mesh, not a point cloud. And so that gives us a little bit more accuracy when, for example, you're trying to find, let's say the corner of 3 planes and measuring from the corner of the floor to, say, a doorway. And so that helps kind of ensure high accuracy, even if the point cloud itself is somewhat sparse. But certainly scanning anything as close as possible, but we recommend about a foot and no closer than about a foot to get the maximum possible accuracy with that scan.
Okay. And we have just a comment that may be worth addressing from Sam Torres. I'm on the app now on my iPhone Pro, and it says beta when I go to 3D scan.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the 3D scan feature is available to everyone, but it is still officially in beta. And I made that call as the product owner of 3D scan, primarily because we wanted to make sure that we got a lot of data points from our customers in using this feature before we really sort of turned it into a fully supported and kind of production product. And so it's been in kind of an open beta now for a couple of months, and we're starting to look at when we'll decide to officially take it out of beta. But at this time, the plus or minus 1 inch accuracy is something that we commit to in the product, even though we do still call it a beta. I don't know if any of you are familiar with how Gmail was officially a beta for many, many years. Hopefully it won't be many, many years that we call 3D scan a beta. But given just how new this technology is, both for the devices themselves and our users, we wanted to make sure we collected enough data before we officially put the full 100% production label on that product.
And then related from David Riley, does 3D scan come with the license, or is it priced a la carte?
Yeah, so at this time it does come with the OpenSpace sort of core capture license, and so all of our users that have the OpenSpace core product do get access to 3D scan, of course, as long as they have a iOS Pro device.
All right. And this is a question about field notes. So several of you guys have asked about where it can be pushed to or be integrated with. So the first part is, can you push to Trimble project site? This would also be great if you could integrate the system with our construction software. We would love it if we could do it with FieldWire. And I don't know what the other one is called, FieldWire.
Yep. Yeah, so currently we support it in PlanGrid, Procore, BIM 360, and soon to be Autodesk Construction Cloud. FieldWire and Trimble are also on our list to eventually support. We would love to be able to support all project management tools out there all at once, but of course it takes time to build each individual integration. And as you could potentially imagine, some of these APIs are quite tricky to work with. And so some of those take a little bit longer than I wish they would to build. But we do intend to support more and more project management tools as we continue to evolve those integrations. We also have a sort of a bulk PDF export report where you can just go and find a set of field notes you want and just print off a PDF of all those field notes. And so that makes it at least a little bit easier to export those into any other system just by attaching a PDF.
Thank you. Is there any AI-based image recognition? And if so, can it pick up valves and pumps in a plant room?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So yes, there is quite a bit of AI image detection and processing that goes into our product, particularly the progress tracking product, where we're detecting the status of installed things like flooring and doors and walls and all of the things that we can track with our progress tracking product. Currently, valves and the other thing you mentioned, but currently specific things on a pump room are not included in that tracking. But we are always adding more trackers and getting essentially smarter AI, being able to interpret the imagery that gets captured with OpenSpace. And so certainly a possibility that we could detect things like that in the future.
Yeah. And we have time for just a few more, and we have, I think, 3 remaining. So we have from David Riley. I received an email about production and progress for tracking door frame and hardware. Is that part of the ClearSight function?
Yeah, so I believe that's something that we are, ClearSight is not my product, so I have to at least disclaim my answer by saying that we'll have to follow up with our product owner for ClearSight. But I believe that is something that we may not currently track, but something we are looking at potentially tracking in the future. But just simply the installation, the presence of the door is something that we have started to build a tracker for with our door tracking.
Great. And then from Twacha Air, are there any projections to increase support for different camera compatibilities? We are looking for higher quality captures beyond what the 1x2 can provide.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We are constantly watching the new hardware that comes out, particularly from Ricoh and Insta360, but also from other producers such as GoPro, and identifying what models we want to integrate with. There are a couple of new models coming out from both Ricoh and Insta360 that we're looking at building support for. And you know, we're constantly evaluating. I mean, there's so many factors when it comes to the cameras and the image quality, from lens and sensor size to resolution, to even just sort of the post-processing the camera does to handle light and dark spaces, or even motion blur as you're walking through particularly darker spaces. So we're constantly trying to make sure that, you know, the best possible cameras that you can use with OpenSpace are supported right out of the gate, or at least soon after, so that the image quality is a function of just how much you're interested in spending on the device that you'd like to use.
Okay, great, thank you. And lastly, for Columbia, does your field team find it hard to keep the data straight and not go between two cloud ERPs?
So I have never, so they find it very easy. I've never had somebody complain about going onto OpenSpace and getting the data. The one thing that for Columbia too is that we're one of our projects specifically, we're using the Autodesk build, and that is with OpenSpace, it's already integrated into that. So that is one thing that we're kind of looking at as a company, is how to have less logins, right? Because I feel like that is one thing, is we have so many different platforms and you need to remember your password, you need to remember your login information. And I don't have much complaints, but we are looking forward to like streamlining some of those different programs into one area that we can get all the information from one resource.
Great. That includes just the Q&A section of our presentation today. And Richard, if you could advance one, please. We do have some exciting news for you. Since our technology helps customers reduce risk, OpenSpace is now partnering with Shepherd to offer its US-based customers lower construction insurance premiums. This not only rewards active OpenSpace customers, but it also helps offset the cost of using OpenSpace on your projects. For more information or to sign up, please visit the URL shown on the slide, also posted in the chat. And if you found this webinar interesting, you can download our ebook, which has a lot more examples and details showing how teams are taking advantage of OpenSpace to save time and money. Use the link shown in this slide and shared in the chat to download this ebook for free. And with that, we'll wrap up today's presentation. Thank you so much to Jen and Siggy from the Columbia team for taking time out of their busy schedules to share these insights with us today. And to all of you, thank you so much for attending our webinar. Save the date for our next event on July 27th, where we'll show you how to streamline the build. We will send out the recording of this webinar to everyone via email in case you'd like to rewatch or share with your team. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much to Siggy and Jennifer for speaking with us today. And I'm looking forward to keeping the conversation going on our community after the webinar.